truth and knowledge. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Denise, and in this channel we talk about astrology. That's why it's called Puro Astrology. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the ninth house. We're going to talk about what the ninth house is and talk about some planets in the ninth house, and then give you like maybe a guide. I like to give all of the houses a guide, like a person who would open the door for you if you got to the ninth house. If the ninth house was an actual house and you knocked on the door, who would open that door for you? I'm going to introduce you to the guide, and then I'm going to give you some tips on how you can connect with the ninth house. And appropriately, I am wearing my official Sagittarius shirt because you know that every Sagittarius astrologer on YouTube or person who talks about astrology on YouTube is going to be a Sagittarius, because you know how we are. We think that we know so much about spirituality. It's a passion of ours, talking about this spirituality stuff. So, okay, what is the ninth house? I'm going to give you several descriptions, and let's see which one resonates with you the most. So the ninth house is the place that you go that is outside of yourself in order to come back into yourself. It is the ashram. So an ashram is a place where you go and learn spirituality, and there's yoga involved, there's prayer, there's meditation. It is a place that can be monastic, but I think like monastic spirituality is more in the 12th house because there's the renunciation element, but it is essentially a place that you go to learn. You go to learn about the world and ultimately about yourself, because that is the ultimate truth that Jupiter wants you to know, that you and the world are one. And in order to learn that, you need to leave the confines of the third house, the opposite house, and leave your daily environment and go somewhere that is outside of it. So whereas the third house is the things that you learn peripherally, the things that you learn a little bit about, that you know a little bit about everything in order to have great conversations, the ninth house is a place where you go deep. You really go deep and you become an expert at something, and you study something at length. Okay, it is more formal. Some people put religion in the ninth house. I put formal religion in the ninth house because, again, it's something that requires a lot of dedication and studies. And it's also a place where you seek truth that is personal and experiential truth. So something that you experience firsthand goes in the ninth house, because you know that there's a difference between reading something and being like, oh yeah, that's true, and then being like, I read it and then I lived it. Like I lived it, I read it, like I know that this is true, now let me tell you about it. That is the ninth house. That is when you know something in your bones, you know something in your cells. That is the kind of knowledge that is found in the ninth house. It is the kind of knowledge that can only be experienced through first-hand experiences. It's knowing something super deep. It is also the house of travel to foreign lands, because again, traveling to foreign lands gives you a different landscape, gives you a different understanding of the world, that maybe the third house is your world, your daily environment, your neighborhood, maybe even your state for some people. And then you leave and things are different, and you discover that the world is much bigger than that, and that there are more things to learn and more things to incorporate into your knowledge of yourself. And I like to call the ninth house also the great outdoors. Whenever I see that phrase, the great outdoors, it really reminds me of the ninth house, because think of the great outdoors as something metaphorical. Yes, you can go to a forest and find yourself and find spirituality and connect with Mother Nature, and that will give you a ninth house experience, but it's just out of doors of yourself. So leaving yourself and going outside in order to come back and know yourself better. That is the ninth house. Also, the ninth house is the place that you go to in order to learn more and be more. It is a really positive, upward lifting house. So that's basically the ninth house. So who would be your guide? If you knocked on the door of the ninth house, then who would be your guide? And I hate to go super religious with this one, but the ninth house really seems like the guide would be somebody who is very serious about learning and who is really spiritual at the same time. So I could put like Russell Brand in here, or Joe Rogan in here, because they're, spiritual dudes who talk a lot of shit, teach people stuff. So they could fit in here. But somebody who I think is much more appropriate would be 13-year-old Jesus, when remember that Jesus Christ from the Bible, he had been studying, and then he learned some stuff, and he showed up at the synagogue or whatever their church was called, and he saw people selling things outside, and he was like, you can't be selling things, like this is wrong. And he was really, that was like the Jesus that doesn't get talked about that much, but that's my favorite Jesus. That's like the know-it-all Jesus that's like, no, this is wrong. Like, show me in the text where what you're doing is appropriate and how it follows the law. Like that Jesus, 13-year-old Jesus who was like really rebellious, that is my favorite Jesus. And that is who I think would greet you at the door of the ninth house. Somebody who wants you to know something deeply, somebody who wants you to stand for what you believe in, but really believe something that you really know because you've studied it and you've lived it. And that once you've lived it, you walk the walk, and you talk the talk and you walk the walk. So that is really who I think would greet you in the ninth house. And so planets in the ninth house. So if you have your sun in the ninth house, then you yourself want to know things very deeply. You want to explore the world. You want to explore spirituality. You want to be a sage. That is a really important part of your personality. If you have Mercury there, again, Mercury is wherever you're going to expend your mental energy. This reminds me of this quote, the truth of what you worship is what you spend your time on. And that mental time, that mental power is going to be spent in the ninth house if you have your Mercury there. You concern yourself with spiritual matters, with upward lifting type of information that is going to help you ascend and become a better person, a wiser person. All of those things are going to relate to you if you have your Mercury in the ninth house. If you have your moon in the ninth house, the moon is where we go to find comfort. So if you have your moon in the ninth house, you might find a lot of comfort in spirituality. You might be a very positive person because you fall back on spirituality, or deep spiritual truths renew you and feed you and nourish you when you have your moon in the ninth house. If you have Venus in the ninth house, then you take a very balanced approach to spirituality and to knowledge. You are not a know-it-all when you have Venus in the ninth house. You want to learn everything but not choose one thing and just be like, this is the way that I'm going to be, this is right. When you have Venus there, then it's more of an exploration that is more lighthearted. And knowledge is really important to you when you have Venus in the ninth house, but you're not going to like bleed about it. You just want to know. Knowledge is going to be something that you take great pleasure in, because Venus is also associated with pleasure. If you have Jupiter there, then Jupiter belongs in the ninth house. So when you have like a double dose, this can make you a very spiritual person, and spirituality is very important to you. But sometimes when you get a double dose of something, it could be a little bit like too much of a good thing, and it can make you a little bit like, because Jupiter and look, the ninth house can make for a know-it-all. And I tell you this as being a Sagittarius sun and moon, you could be a little bit of a know-it-all. I'm going to give you tips at the end on how not to be a know-it-all. But so it's very funny to me. But Jupiter in the ninth house can make you a bit of a know-it-all, but you do know a lot of things. In your defense, you do know a lot of things. So just be sure that you're not being a know-it-all, because people are not going to like that. You do, however, have a lot of wisdom to offer. So be aware of that. If you have Pluto there, then you can be obsessive about the things that you like to learn. If you have Uranus there, then you're going to be rebellious about the structures that have to do with spirituality, religion, or learning, higher education. You're going to be a rebel in those areas, rebellious. If you have Neptune there, then you're going to have a very spiritual nature, and there's going to be an element of compassion attached to it. So compassion for the world is going to be really important for you. I think that's all the planets. So now let's get into the tips, some tips to connect with the ninth house. Most of these are kind of like guiding questions. So I was a teacher, and I'm always going to be a teacher, so I made some guiding questions for us guys. The first one is, what do you really know? What do you know? So if you have planets in the ninth house, or if you just want to connect with the ninth house, you want to be a more ninth housey person, you want to know some stuff. So what is it that you know? In order to really know something, I really believe that you have to not only experience it, but you also should study it. And some people would be like, Denise, I've lived it. I don't have to study it. And even though that is true, when you study something formally, it gives you the vocabulary in order to talk about it in a way that is going to make you more respected. So I do think that having formal study is important. It's an important part of connecting with the ninth house, because the ninth house is a formal study sort of place. So if you're a ninth house person, or if you want to connect with the ninth house, then I think that you should study the things that you dabble in. So the third house is the place of dabbling. The third house is just get a broad understanding of everything, not a broad, but a small understanding of a lot of things. That is a third house. And the ninth house is where you go to like do your PhD at, okay? So you don't have to actually do a PhD. You can, of course, obviously, if you don't want to get paid any money, but I'm kidding. So study the things that you've dabbled in and get serious about one or two things that you really love and dedicate time to those things, and buy some books, man. Spend your money, buy some books and study the things that you've dabbled in and that you're curious about. The next question is, do you live by what you know? So living by your philosophy is going to make you not only believe it more and be more authentic and true to yourself, but again, when you live by what you preach or by the things that you truly believe in, then it makes others respect you, and it makes you a more Jupiterian person, I believe, because it's like you don't have to preach people anything. People will just see the way that you're living your life, and they're going to be inspired by you. So the ninth house also has a lot to do with inspiration. So when you're a ninth house person or a Sagittarius person, then living authentically and living the things that you really believe in are so important, because it brings people to you, and it spreads your like positivity, and it makes people more joyous to be around you and to want to live their truths. It's not about like, I don't want to make people live my truths. No, I want people to live their truths. It's very important for everyone to have their own experiences and their own truth and knowledge. So live by those things, and not only will you be more in tune with your mind and your heart, like you'll be aligned, because it's just like, I don't just talk this shit, like I'm living this. So you'll be more in tune with yourself and true with yourself and authentic, but you'll also inspire others to be authentic with themselves. And the last thing is stay learning. Never think that you've learned all that there is to know about something. Never think that you are above learning from a particular person. I used to definitely be such a know-it-all. When I was a teenager, you couldn't tell me anything. I thought nobody taught me shit all of high school. I had one teacher who thought, I still say this, that I had one teacher who taught me something in 11th grade, because she gave me a C on a paper, and then I didn't learn anything until I took grammar, and I studied English literature. So I used to be such a know-it-all little jerk. Don't be that way. Don't be a know-it-all. It's the moment that I decided not to be a know-it-all, when I actually met somebody who was like so smart, and I was just like, that person got smart by learning more things. So I realized that I needed to learn more, and in order to do that, you need to accept that you don't know everything. And the moment that you accept that, you become more open to receiving even more information and it allows you to become even more knowledgeable. And when you're a ninth house person or a Sagittarius, that's what you want. You want to know all of the things. So stay learning, be an eternal student, and don't get too mighty up there. So that's the video for today, guys. I hope you liked it. If you did, make sure you give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to my channel. I put out videos every single week, and I'll see you in the next one.